Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I am learning how to use my software. So my commitment is to stream live every day at 12:30 p.m. Eastern and 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I started at 9:30, but I had some technical difficulties, so I've just decided to reset and restart. And we're looking at my blank page for learning languages. And we also have my cell phone here. I have some apps that we're going to look at. And I also have some books that I want to share what I'm learning now. These are German, but I'll kind of explain why I have this. And I have a ton of digital resources related to learning Ukrainian, and I'm sure as I go, I will pick up some books as well. So let me just give a brief introduction of why learn Ukrainian. And part of it is since the invasion on February 24th, many of us have been at rapt attention and have been wanting to do our part to support Ukrainians. And I think that as the war continues, as the war continues to evolve, it is important that we do our part to, support. But I think my part, I was trying to sort of do updates on the news, and I think plenty of people are covering the news. And although I do have a TikTok channel, and as I find stories that are being underreported or I could add some value, I will certainly do that. But what I was most inspired by was seeing a number of Ukrainian creators sharing their language with us. And I wanted to be on the other side, catching it, capturing it, and saying, yes, here I am, and I'm trying. And I'm sure it's going to be awful, but we begin. And so I want to give a couple of things just about learning languages, a bit of my background in language. I definitely come from a family of immigrants, and so there's a lot of foreign languages in my family. Both my parents are bilingual, trilingual. They speak languages, some obviously better than others, but they grew up in and around Europe, so there was an exposure to many languages. And then my mom's family, having moved to Canada and living in Quebec, they speak French. So I have been introduced to French my entire life, and then living in Southern California was very much introduced to Spanish. Studying a Chinese martial art, have been introduced to Chinese, and more recently also adding Taekwondo and Kyoto-shan, learning a little bit of Japanese. So I have an interest in languages, and also what I find is that by looking at languages, it makes the English language much deeper and much richer, because I start seeing the origins of words that I'm like, oh, I never realized that that meant that. So I find that even just learning a little bit of language familiar. I'm being told that my stream is disconnected and reconnected, and now that it's reconnected successfully. So I just think that learning languages is a bit interesting. And the nice thing is you can learn a little bit, and that's perfect. You can learn a little bit more, and that's better. We're not native speakers. We're not physically in the country. But because of the enormous diaspora that's now happened throughout the world, there's a lot of Ukrainian refugees. There's a lot of Ukrainians in Ukraine who are just wanting to, make sure that we're paying attention and we understand how important this is politically and for just the entire West to be victorious here. And so I think that coming into 2023, I have an interest in upgrading my foreign languages, and I just want to make a commitment to learn Ukrainian, and have just decided that coming onto my channel, since I want to grow a channel this year, I'm going to sort of start sharing what I'm learning, and perhaps we can all have the opportunity to learn and grow together. So a couple things, I have been leaning into this because I've done quite a bit of coverage on the war for my TikTok channel, which is dedicated to supporting the war in Ukraine. I have learned how to generally read Cyrillic, and I have learned how to read. And one of the things, like, names are the same. Names of people, names of places. So a lot of times if you listen to a foreign language, or once you get past the basics of reading, you'll see how many things actually are rather phonetic, and you will actually recognize them. And I think that the thing as you begin is to focus on what you know and celebrate what you know. Don't get overwhelmed by letters you don't recognize, words you don't recognize. Just focus on what you do recognize. I've started spending a lot of time listening. Even though I may not understand most of what they're saying, I start to understand the tone, the pace, certain aspects of the accent. And so even just listening to something you don't even understand. But then what's sort of fun is when you start to understand words, even if they're the basic words, yes, no, please, thank you. You start to recognize them and pull them out. And again, same thing with place names and people names. You start to pull them out. So there's a sense of you're starting to the more you lean in, the more it starts to connect. Now, I'm not anywhere getting close to grammar. I'm not anywhere close to getting into past tense, future tense, all that stuff. I'm just starting at the very beginning. So I want to share this journey now with any language. Couple things. One is there's 5 parts of language that we want to be aware of. Part 1 is that ability to listen and understand. Even if not understanding all of it, just picking up what we can. Number 2 is the ability to read. Same thing. May not be getting most of it, but just getting what you can. The ability to write, and it might just even be, learning how to write certain words or phrases, just the beginning of knowing how to generate the word or the thought. The ability to speak. And then once you're really into a language, the ability to know kind of the turns of phrase, the culture, the things that are truly unique to a language and how they say things and why they say things a certain way, and just things that are culturally relevant. So those would be the 5 parts of language that I think we want to look at. And one of the teachers that I came across had talked about how one of his students who was really studying, putting in the work, was doing what he perceived to be really well. And then as a new language teacher, it was really informative for him to realize that even though he had been doing well at learning the vocabulary and at listening and understanding and at writing, he was not speaking. And so when he did a test on his proficiency, he didn't do as well because he was not speaking. So I want to practice speaking with you here. It's going to be awful, but I'm going to begin. And so we have some Ukrainian creators who have offered mentorship and some phrases and some words that we're going to look at, we're going to share together. But the very, very first thing right now, I just want to kind of capture the intention and the process of being here. And part of learning a language is committing that you're doing a little bit every day, every week. You do what you can. So 2 books that I want to give. Now these are both German examples, but I think they're really good places to start. So this one is called German in 10 minutes a day. So actually I'll put it here so you can see it right there. And it is a formula for sort of beginning to build a very introductory basic vocabulary. Now I have a couple of other ones that are the same and in different languages. So I have a whole bunch of different language books here. So I have 10 minutes a day Spanish. I have 10 minutes a day Chinese. So in addition to learning Ukrainian, I'm going to be peeking into some of these other languages, and we can all continue to learn and improve. But what all of these books and looking at them is they all have the exact same format. So they start with, where is the country? Well, I think by now we all know where Ukraine is, which is going to be on this map right over here. So this is Germany, and got Poland, and then of course Ukraine is right over here. So they start with saying, hey, there are a lot of words that you probably already recognize. So was ist das? Das is in ice. Wir möchten in ice. Probably not saying that correctly, but again, begin with practicing. But what they sort of say is a lot of things, when you really look at things, you will start to recognize. And the very, very first lesson that they offer to us is the alphabet. Now, this is going to be easier in Spanish and German and French than it is going to be in Chinese or Russian or Ukrainian. But I will say Russian and Ukrainian for a Westerner are still exponentially easier than Chinese, Japanese, Korean, or any of the other Asian languages. So today we're just going to start with what is here in this German book is just what is the alphabet and examples of how that alphabet is pronounced. And that is alphabet is lesson 1. Just a preview, you get into questions, who, what, when, where, why. You get into some basic things about restrooms and cars and travel, and then looking at sort of odds and ends, looking around at a house, all the different parts and pieces that you'll find in a house, numbers, knowing how to count numbers. Then you get into the colors, and this flags is just an exercise on colors. And so then you get a little bit into money. And so these are kind of a good just guide. And each of the books is the exact same format. So today we are focusing on the letters, the alphabet. So on my phone, I have an app that's been super helpful for me in learning the Ukrainian alphabet. And that is this app. This is the app that I use to learn it. I found it in the App Store. So what is it? It's called Ukraine Alphabet Now. And I just found it super helpful, and I would encourage you to download it. I think it would make a big difference as you begin on this journey, because Cyrillic is really the first part of what we have to learn as we begin our Ukrainian journey. Now, Cyrillic is used in Russian, Ukrainian. The languages are similar but different. They have different alphabets. In this journey, I'm also looking at Russian because there's a lot more resources available for learning Russian, and is some crossover. So let us go to the beginning. So Ukrainian alphabet. To read or write modern Ukrainian, you will need to learn the alphabet, or abeteka. This app represents print and cursive scripts for Ukrainian Cyrillic in easy to learn lesson sets. Each lesson covers a short set of letters where you can practice writing and reading each letter and review their pronunciation. The modern Ukrainian alphabet consists of 33 letters. Along with these, an apostrophe is also used to indicate that the consonant preceding a soft vowel is not palatized, softened, when it normally would be. Here's an example of the two scripts to use in this app. So one is the print text, and one is the script. Using the app, go through each lesson, study the letters, and practice writing and reading. Listen to the pronunciation guides. Click on completed once you know the lesson. Then use the quiz to test your knowledge. Only the lessons marked completed will show up in the quiz. From the lesson screen, you can test yourself by tapping the quiz. In the quiz, you can select either print or cursive to test your knowledge. The app keeps score of the letters you've got right and wrong. In the right tab, you can practice writing each letter directly on the screen. Choose a letter, write it in red or black, and move on to the next letter. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to kind of write these down as we go. So letter names.
Ah.
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 Ah. So that we're going to check. That's as far as we are very familiar with that. That's something we know.
B.
B. So this is a slightly different letter. It looks more like a 6 than it does a B, but we kind of know it.
B.
So I'm going to put that one, it's not a straight check. We'll give it a different symbol. We will give it a...
B.
So we know the sound, it's not as familiar, so let's just give it a circle. Something that...
B. V.
Now this one is a letter that we know, but it's completely different in how it is pronounced. I'm going to give that a square. So a letter we know, but
V.
it equals V.
V.
Okay.
He.
Now this one is interesting because in Ukrainian it is H, and in Russian it is G. And what I feel like is, I'm going to give these ones that we've never seen before a triangle. And so again, Ukrainian,
He.
a he, or you're going to see in Russian it's a G. And the reason that it matters is when you look at place names, you'll see Luhansk or Lugansk. And it's going to be the same letter, but it's going to be just a difference in terms of, is it Luhansk or Lugansk? And as far as how it is pronounced.
He.
He,
A.
be,
B.
ve,
V.
he,
G.
g. So that's their G. Their G is similar, but it has that little thing at the top. And so that, again, ones we've never seen before, equals, and that's the Ukrainian G. So those are the ones that we have so far. We have A,
A.
B,
B. V. He. G. A. B. V. He. G.
So in my effort to read it, write it, hear it, now I'll try to speak it and invite you to do the same.
A.
A,
B.
B,
V.
V,
He.
He,
G.
G. So there we go. A, B. Okay, so now let us move on to... Oh, okay, so they give us more information. The A sounds like A in father, actor, bank. Actually, so now they're giving us some words. So these actually, I think, are interesting because like they're so basic, and they really show you that once you can read the writing, the words behind it are not as difficult as we think they are. So they give us the example of ac. Now we'll get to later that the P is an R, so that is actor. Then B, which looks like a 6. A, they read it as a lowercase. Their H is an N. And then K is, as we pronounce it, K. And that would be bank. So you've got actor and bank. Next is wine, which is V. And they have this, actually, I wrote that backwards. It's a back, so that's, we'll get rid of that. Let's move on. So it is B, and then a backwards N, H, O is wine, and that's the V, and this is the backwards N is going to be an I, and this is H is an N, and then O, so it's like vino, which vino in French or Spanish or Italian. You've got wine, and then the he is English H as in behind, and we get gas. So again, you take the ha, a, and z equals gas. And then knowing that this is either can be an H or a G, we know this word as gas with a G. So that's why I think it's helpful to know that the H and the G are somewhat interchangeable, depending on if it's coming from Russian or Ukrainian. And then goat, they have here as the G, A, H, which is the N, O, K, and that is goat, and that their word for that is ganok. Ganok is a goat. So those are some examples of some words that we can look at. I think my camera focus needs a little help, but that's that. And then let's go to next.
D.
Okay, so these again we're looking at ones that don't look that familiar to us. They're new, but once you recognize them and you see them, you can totally know that that is a D. And so again, it's ones that are similar, like the be. I'm going to go ahead and give that an O, and that equals D. So it sort of looks like we know that one. Just give that a check.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's a sound we don't have. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to give that a triangle, meaning we don't have that
Є.
j, yeah. They pronounce it ge, but
Є.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have to work on that one.
Ж.
Je.
Ж.
Now this one they're saying is je, but sort of a z, e.
Ж.
And I've definitely noted that when I see this one, I don't quite know what to do with it. So that's...
Ж. З.
Okay, so this is like the 3. So we know 3s, so I'll give that a square because we recognize the letter. This is a triangle, we have no idea what it is. And
З.
this is... they're...
Ж.
This is more like a je.
Є.
This is more like a yeah. So we've got... Here we've got duh. So we've heard them, we've written them. Now let's try to speak them. Duh,
Д. Д.
de,
Е.
e,
Є.
yeah,
Ж.
je,
З.
ze,
З.
ze. Okay, next. Oh. Alright. Okay, so what do we got here? So the D is in home, which is that D symbol. I am. So dim is home. As in yesterday. So should have this a lowercase e, and an H, another E, and P. That H one, I, and now backwards R. And there you say that that is energy. Now for me, I know that I know that H is N, I know that P is R, I know that that is H, and I know that the backwards R is Ya. Energia. So that again, you can start seeing that the energy is in there. And same thing with this is egg. In P E T, and that's going to be Egypt. And then that h sounds like an S in pleasure. Z is z, and that's an HKA. Jinka is woman. My pen. Jinka is woman. And then the Z is in iron, which is going to be Zal Ezo equals iron. Zalizo. And that one is L, which we'll get to in a minute. So those are our first few letters of the alphabet. So next, E. I get backwards in writing this one. Backwards N, basically.
І.
E.
Ї.
Yi.
Йот.
Yot. Yot.
К.
Ka. So we'll give this the ka is like ours. These backwards one we haven't really seen before, so we'll give them our little triangles. And then
І.
this I is more like an E, so we will give that, let's just give these circles. They're familiar but different. And then let's see what it wants us to. say for the words. So we've got M, this backwards N, and then an L, and an O is soap. And then the C's are S's, T, O, P's are R's, I, that backwards R is a Y, is history. And then, so actually when you know the letters, this is a perfect example of a word that once you can read the Cyrillic, it's not that hard, because it literally reads istori. That P is an R, and that's a ya, historia. So it really is, there's a number of it that's highly phonetic once you start to understand what it is. The next one is Aisha, is food. And then we've got that with the little ellipse and then a D. Not sure how they write that. And that is EOD, which is iodine. And then K as in KIT, and that is cat. So we've got soap, history, food, iodine, cat. All right, next.
L.
Okay, this one is the L. You'll see that a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and give it that symbol of a triangle, something we have not seen before.
M.
M is our M, so that's a check.
N.
Okay, this you see a lot. It's a letter that we know. So the letters that we know get a square. It's very much like the B that equals a V. The H equals an N. So when you see H, it's an N, and that's
O.
O is very much like RO.
P.
And then this little door thing is very much like something where you don't see, but it is their P. So let's look at some examples here. We have L, A, M, P, A is lamp. So it looks really hard, but when you actually phonetically sound it out, it's lampa. And here's another one, which is M, and I should find out that name for this backwards N. But there's the N, and then there's this W that they have, and then A equals mouse, and H, I, and then this, which would be mich, is knife. So a lot of it, like I said, once you start to really read it, it starts to make a lot more sense. And then Ozero is a lake, and obviously there are words that you just have to learn the vocabulary for. And then here we've got P, T, A, X is bird. Next.
R.
So that's where I say P equals R. And if I go back to our little code symbol, that's those square ones where we know it, but it's a different letter.
S.
And same thing with C.
T.
T is very much what we know.
U.
Y equals U.
F.
And then this is that symbol that we sort of know from the Greek alphabet, which is
T.
F.
F.
And so I'll give that a equals F. And what do we have? So we got pero. And then okay, so they're just saying the P is like an R in pero. Okay, so it's, so POBOTA equals, so that P being an R, that would be robota, and that's robot. Sik, CIK, and that C is an S, equals juice. TYPNCT looks hard if you don't know it, but if we know that that's a T and that's a U and that's an R, and then that backwards N is an I, and that's an S and that's a T, that is a tourist. And then we have YCPIX, and so that's Uspix. Uspix is success, and FYTBOL. Okay, so FUTBOL is football. So there we go. So next, we've got
Ha.
ha equals ha. And I'm gonna give that one a square. We know the sound, but it's different.
Se.
Now these are ones we do not have in the English language, and I think they're pronounced TSE. And I'm gonna give them that triangle, so we don't know them.
She.
So that's like the Y, a different kind of Y. It almost looks like more like a 4.
She. She.
She. Again, things we don't know.
Sha.
That's that W. Different than RW. I kind of like RW. I'll go ahead and give it something we recognize.
Sha. Sha.
Sha.
Sha.
And this is a W with a little thing at the end. W.
Sha. Sha.
Sha. Okay, I don't quite have those, but those are probably the harder ones for us. Okay, so we've got an X, a capital B, an O, a P, an O, a B, and an A. And so that's going to be disease. Let's see if we can see it. Zvaroba. Zvaroba. And onion is ch. I need the names of these. It's backward. See, I'm writing it as a frontward N. I need to write it as a backward N. And then a B. And then a Y. And then an L. And then an R is onion. And so so I'm having trouble with that one. Okay, let's get to the next one. Alad ads is chocolate. Which is chocolade. Chocolade. So you can see it in there. And then the next one is, I can't pronounce that yet, with an A and a C and a T and an R, equals happiness and luck. somewhat close. That one is somewhat close to the Spanish machucha. Okay.
M'який знак.
Now these are the ones that, as I understand it, this is a soft B. And so when you see that, the word in front of it is soft.
Ю.
I've seen this one. Equals U. And I'm going to go ahead and give that a things we don't know.
Я.
And then this is that backwards R. And that equals Ya. And that means I. As it, when it's by itself, the R. And so it says, it's a silent, it palantizes, softens the preceding consonant. It's called a soft sign, and it is not considered a letter. And it is in the word T-I-N. So this would be tin. I guess it would soften it, and that is a shadow. And then this one is that one, and then the B, which is a V, E, L, I, P is an R, is a uvel, an uveler is a jeweler. And then this one is Ya. I'm gonna need help with that one, and that is egg. And that's it. Those are the letters. That is the entire alphabet. So I encourage you to look for that app, which I found in the App Store. So let's say if I were to go to the App Store, and I would look for it, and I would say Ukrainian alphabet, Cyrillic. It's this one. It's this Learn Ukrainian Alphabet is the app that we just went through. Now, of course, there's others, and we can certainly check them out. But that one is free, and I think it's just a really great way to start to get familiar with the alphabet. It's one of the ones that I've used in addition to some other videos. But I think that we can sort of end our lesson here. I'm going to go ahead and check in on my YouTube channel. I don't know where I get my chat. That's what I'm sort of seeming to be missing right now, is where I find my chat. Settings, stream, output. I don't know where my chat is, so that's what I'm not seeing right now. But anyways, I'm learning how to use not only languages, I'm also learning how to use the software, so that is one of the things I'll want to know is where I can find my chat. So anyways, that is a little lesson for today, and it was a good review for me. I learned more things every time I see it. So I think that's the key, is not looking to get the whole thing, but just to get a few things. So to understand that A, E, all the vowels, and then M, O, T are all going to be the same. And then it's these other ones that we recognize, but every time you see a B, it's going to be a V. And every time you see a P, it's going to be an R. And and then every time you see an H, it's going to be an N. those are the ones that I think are a little tricky. And then the same thing. So there's the P as an R, the C as an S, the Y as a U. And so once you start kind of getting those transposed in your mind, that's the greatest way to start to read it. Now, where am I reading Ukrainian? I read a lot on Telegram. I also have Google Alerts that sends me articles in Ukrainian. You'll also see a lot of Ukrainian on social media posts, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube. So when you see those letters, for example, Slava, Slava, when you see Slava, you know that that's an S and an L and an A and a V and an A. So that's how we sort of say Slava Ukraini. And same thing when you see Ukraine, you'll see it usually as a Y, K, P, which is Ukraine, and then A, I, and then the H is an N. And like sometimes it's Ukraini, Ukraina, but that's how Ukraine, it's not, it doesn't feel right, but most of it's there. Y, K, P, A, I, H, I, A is U, K, R, A, I, H, N, Ukraine, N, A. So Slava, Ukraine. So with that, I will end it. If you've left a comment, I will be sure to respond to it. And thank you for joining me in this new learning adventure.